Good afternoon everyone. Welcome back to the class. So last class we were discussing the second important concept. It's about development, resource development. So I have told, as I told, in this chapter we have two segments. One is about the resource and the development of resource. So in the development of resource, in the last class we were discussing the land utilization, and there are given some points, the factors or the activity where we are using the land for that. So then land use, what are those two factors, two main factors which is affecting the land use? What are those two factors? What are those two factors or causes for the land use? Yes, one is natural factor, another one is human. Wait a minute. So what are those two factors which affects the use of land? What are the two factors which influences to make use of land? One is natural factor, another one is human factors. So what are those natural factors? Yes, like topography. So we have some synonyms for the topography. What are those synonyms? Like similar words for the topography. Relief features, different landforms, it's a topography, and the climatic factors, and fertile soil, availability of soil, and the availability of water. So it's all the natural factors which influences to make use of the land. Then human factors, like a population. You know, as the population increases, the demand increases for use of resources. Then technology. Then the culture and tradition. That's what we discussed in the last class. Now we'll continue with the same. So name of the chapter is about resource the development. Now because of these activities, because of these natural and human factors, and because of this all the activities, land is getting degradation. What is land degradation? Land degradation. Land degradation. What is this land degradation? So now we are going to discuss about next concept. It's about land degradation and conservation measures. Land degradation and conservation measures. So we have two divisions in this concept. We will discuss concept wise. What is land degradation? So what is this degradation refers to? Land degradation. So it is nothing but reducing or depleting in the economically and biologically. Reducing the quality of a land. It's very simple. The degradation, depleting in the quality, ecologically, in the biologically, depleting the quality of the land is called as degradation of the land. So now, you know, from an ancient period, we are we are making use of a land for many other activities. And now at present, what we have the generation, we are sharing the future, like a resource, land resource with a past generation. We are sharing the land resource, and in the futures, we will have to share our land resources with the generation, future coming generation also, isn't it? So it's under continuous use from ancient period. In the future also it will be under the uses, isn't it? But because of this modernization, as the technology increased, and we are making use of this land for every activity, and every piece of land or the surface is used because we have a high technology. We are in the peak of our generation and civilization. We are the peak of civilization and technology. It's improved. So it should not get over in this generation. It should be remain for the next future generation. For that we should have some conservation measures, isn't it? But now the land resources what we have is under degradation. It's depleting its quality. It's reducing its power. What are those main reasons? So here at present in India, so we are discussing mainly in relation with India, the land degradation in India. At present in India we have 130 million land degraded. 130 million hectares of land is under degradation. It's degraded already. In India, around 130 million hectares of land degraded. 130 million, that means 13 crore. 130 million, it's about 1.3 crore hectares of land is degraded. So there are reasons, many reasons, as you know, for the land use we have two factors, same like that. For the degradation of land, there are many factors. One is natural factors and also human factors, same. For every problem, there are two factors. One is natural factors, another one is human factors. Same like that. Here also we have two factors. One is about natural factors and the human factors. Here in among these 130 million hectares, if you consider this 130 million hectares into 100%, in the 28% of land degraded by forest. The 28% of a land among these 130 million hectares, 28% of land is degraded by the forest. That means how? We may say, sir, suppose we grow forest, like we grow trees, if we make a forest and it can increase the quality of land. Yes, but the forest nothing like here. Earlier, most of the areas were covered by the forest, but now we have cleared that areas for construction, building, for the roads and for many other activities. Is not. So the forest is nothing but we are cleared that areas. We chop the trees for constructing many buildings for our activities. For that reason, the 28% of our land, the Indian land, is degraded because of the forest. Then the 56% of a land degraded by water. Water means we have many sources where we can get a water. The source of water is like a river, pond, lake, sea, ocean, and the glaciers, rainfall. This is all the source of water where we can get. So here the 56% comparatively it's more, means our land in India is degrading because of these water activities. Not only water, like not only the stabilized water, because of flowing waters, like a river. So our India we have many big and many tributaries and main rivers in India. So the rivers, water flow, otherwise water flow in the particular stream, it's degraded land. So do you think while river flows it doesn't carry or doesn't erode anything? Yes. So you might be seeing this. Now you want to flood over here in the Ganaprabha river. So because of this, many areas got eroded, and the gully regions also eroded, and the borders of this river, banks of river also got eroded. So it's another example for this erosion because of water flow. And the glaciers from Himalayan mountain ranges, when the glaciers come down, it carries the sediments along with that. So there is a chance of landslide because of this glaciers. When the continuous glaciers moves in a particular path that erodes the path, it's one of the reasons for having land degradation. So when water flows continuously in the particular region, suppose this what we are seeing the flood here, suppose it happens continuously for 4 to 6 years, then the fertility of the areas will be eroded. Suppose it continues for the continuously, the fertility of that area, like agriculture field, it will be eroded. So it's one of the reasons. Then other remaining percent, rest of 100%. It's caused by the human activities. So human activities like what are those? Mining, over exploitation, construction activities. So these are the human activities, whereas it is leading towards degradation of a soil. Right on this, the degradation of soil. Right on the degradation. Soil it is visible. So around at present, the 130 million acres of land got eroded. It's eroded. In among that, 28% it's because of forest, and 56% it's because of water activities, and the remaining it's because of human activities. That is mining, over exploitation, constructions of buildings, and the roads, many other things. So is that over? Then there are some states like in the northern part of India mainly, due to their activity in the particular states, due to the human activities, mainly due to human activities, the particular land got degraded. Such for example in the Jharkhand, West Bengal, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, in that area, that area, that place is called as Chotanagpur Plateau. It's a Chotanagpur Plateau. So because it's having more deposition of mineral, the mining activity is more. Due to this mining activity, which is excessive over in that places, it's directly proportional to have a land degradation. It's one of the main reasons. So there are like a group of states in the northern part of India with a different types of activity, with a different human activity. It's leading towards the land degradation. For example, is that clear? Have you written? In states like Jharkhand, is it visible? Okay. Jharkhand, Orissa, West Bengal. In these states like Jharkhand, Orissa, West Bengal and Chhattisgarh, land under degradation due to mining activity. As I told, these areas are southeastern part or northeastern part, like southeastern part. It's called as Chotanagpur Plateau, where Jharkhand, Orissa, West Bengal, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. In this area we call it as Chotanagpur Plateau. There we have a deposition of more minerals, so that they are having more mining activities. So in order to get the minerals, they are practicing excessive mining activity over there. It's leading towards the land degradation. So then other states like Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, then Bihar and Rajasthan. In Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar and Rajasthan, land degraded due to overgrazing. So there they practice the overgrazing in a large area. It affects for the land. How? In that particular agricultural area, in the overgrazing activity, they don't give any gap in between in the agricultural year to get that soil fertility its own. Continuously there will be growing a crop. It's a fooder crop. Continuously there will be no any chance of getting rest for the land to get the fertility its own. So it's for overgrazing that is leading towards land degradation. This in the states mainly. Then in states like Haryana, Punjab, and the west part of Uttar Pradesh, in these land degraded due to over agriculture activity. Like overgrowing, over agriculture activity. So here in the Jharkhand, in Uttarakhand, this Uttarakhand also includes in this year. So in these states like Haryana, Punjab, west part of Uttar Pradesh, land got degraded already because the people who are there in these states, they grow more crops. In an agriculture year, we will be having 3 agriculture season. There, most of the people, they grow 3 crops. It's very common to grow the 4 crops or 5, but there they grow more than that, more than 4 crops they grow, and they make use of every piece of a land, agriculture land in these the states like Haryana, Punjab, western part of Uttar Pradesh. So it's leading towards the degradation of land. So states, and you should remember, like states like Jharkhand, Odisha, West Bengal are degraded because of mining activity. In that states, land is getting under degradation because of this mining activity. In these states, like Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, and Rajasthan, it's because of overgrazing. And here, Haryana, Punjab, and the western part of Uttar Pradesh, it's because of agriculture activity, over agriculture activity. Right on? Is that over? So in these states, due to the different activities or due to the different reason, the land is getting degradation. Here in these states, mainly, if you understand by the map, it will be very clear. Suppose it's India. Suppose it's India. Here, in the part of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and West Bengal, in this area, land is under degradation, and it's already degraded, and it's been degrading. It's losing its capacity because of mining activity. And here, in the second point, the part of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and Maharashtra, here land is degraded already. Degraded, same like it's degrading because of overgrazing. Then in Haryana, Punjab, western part of Uttar Pradesh, and in this area, the same land is degraded because of over agriculture activity. So they grow more crops in an agricultural year. So in the northern part of India, the most part of in these 130 million acres, the most percent of degraded land is found in the northern part of India. So So because of these three main activities, these are the three main human activities. Is that clear? Right down? So here, these are all reasons for having land degradation. So here we should not leave this land to get under degradation because the land is a basic resource for every other resources. What you are getting, all the resources, is only because of the land. So we need this land at present and for the future generation also needed. So that reason we should have some conservation measures. So now we will discuss about this conservation measures. What do you mean by conservation of land? Conservation. What is that conservation? Conservation measures. Conservation measures. So what are the conservation measures, methods which we need to follow to reduce the land degradations? So what is this conservation? As I asked you, what do you mean by conservation of land? Conservation is nothing but using the resources efficiently or protecting the land resources, preserving the land resources. It's a conservation of land. Protecting the land, using the land resources efficiently, preservation of land resources is called as conservation of a land. So here, as you know, there are many reasons for land degradations. What we discussed now, and along with that we have many things. What are those? What are other important and basic you know about them? What are those other factors which is leading towards degradation of land? Mining activity, that's what we discussed, and overgrazing. Then water logging, the flood, landslide. It's all natural factors, isn't it? Then adding more fertilizers, chemical fertilizers and pesticides in the agriculture field, it also affects the land. Indirectly that affects the land. First it affects the soil, then it's affect to the land. Then soil erosion is also another one factor which leads towards land degradations. So there, for that we need to have some measures, conservation measures to reduce all those things so that it will be available for the future generation need and also for today, this present situation. So what are those measures which we need to follow? Main, you know, the deforestation. From the lower classes, we have been getting one example for every bad changes in environment. For we are getting, we know the basic example for the damages of environment. What we are getting damage in environment because of that example. What is that example? Yes, it's about deforestation. It's a basic one, you know. From lower classes, we are getting the same example. Deforestation. Because of deforestation, we are facing many problems. It's a one main problem. So, in order to reduce all the problems, we need to work in against of deforestation. What is that? Afforestation. Isn't it? It's a one main afforestation, that means growing a trees, like creating the forest, covering the land surfaces with some trees and plants. It's about afforestation. Then proper management need to be done in disposing and discharging the industrial waste and industrial effluents and the waste materials, anything. Like automobile industry, they dump some gadgets and the machines that are in the particular area that influence, that affects the land, and gradually that land goes into the degradation because of all those things. And we should have a proper management in adding chemical fertilizer and pesticides. So then we should have a land reclamations. Land, some sand dunes and the land dunes are there. So you need to protect the sand dunes or the land dunes by growing some thorny bushes. It's also measures which we need to follow. So we'll discuss one by one. So conservation measures in that, the afforestation. Afforestation, you know about that? It's about growing crops. It's an afforestation, creating a forest, recreating the forest. It's an afforestation. Then proper management of adding, otherwise using chemical fertilizer, otherwise proper management of discharging industrial effluents. The proper management of discharging industrial effluents is required in order to reduce land degradation and then reduction in using chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizer and pesticides. Then land reclamation. Land reclamation. So here you all know about these 3 points. The land reclamation is nothing but the most of the land, suppose earlier the land was a pond, that area was a pond or lake. Now from 10 years or 15 years there is no water and it will not be pond, but the shallow area will be there. It's used for nothing. So that type of a land can be used for the agricultural activity or some other activities. So it's called as land reclamations. The waste land, buried land can be used for some activities called as for agricultural activity. It's called as land reclamations. Then reduction of mining activity. Mining activity, by reducing the activities of mining in every day and every month and at least in every month the new mining activity, new mining area will be opened at least in every year. So we can reduce these mining activities so that the land degradation can be reduced. So it's another example, it's factor or it's another one point to reduce the land degradations. Then check on overgrazing. What we discussed in the last class, it's what the factors or the some points or some causes for the land degradations. Mainly in the Maharashtra, like Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, there the land is getting degradation and some of the land is degraded because of overgrazing. So there we need to have some proper management. We should check the overgrazing work. We should check the quality of a land because of overgrazing. So once if we check the quality of a land, we can reduce the overgrazing activity, and otherwise we can stop the overgrazing activities. Suppose without checking any quality of any land, if you are growing, if it goes on any activities, it affects for that land. Directly it may get into the degradation. So let's say some factors. There are some points which can reduce the degradation of a land. Right on? Right on class. So we'll go for next concept. Is that all? Oh. So now that's about the land concept we discuss. Land use, land resources, land utilization, and the land use factors, and the land degradation and conservation measures for the land degradation, to avoid the land degradation. Now we discuss it's about the soil resources. Soil as a resources. It's the next concept. So in under this soil as a resources, we have a many concepts to discuss about the class. We will discuss what is soil first. Then we will go for the classification of a soil. Then about in every classification of soil we will discuss deeply. Then we will go for the soil degradation, conservation measures of the soil. Same like a land what we discussed. It's another part. You may say it's a one main concept. It's a soil. So what is soil? And we had the same concept in 8th class about the soil. What is soil? So soil is a thin layer of earth's surface. You know how it has formed. Our earth's surface, it's completely filled. Means like a land. What you are saying, the land mass. It's completely filled by this soil. It's a very thin layer. It's a thin layer. Which is grainy substances. Grainy, like you know about this grainy cardboard. So it's a grainy substances. The soil is like a very grainy substance which is covered over the earth's surface. It's called as a soil. The soil, it is a thin layer of grainy substance covered over earth's surface. This is called as soil. We know how soil has formed. We are discussing about that, isn't it? Soil goes under many processes. There are many factors which forms the soil or which is responsible in formation of a soil. Like first one is a parent rock, then different climatical changes, organic and inorganic materials and matters, chemical compositions, and the time also included in that, isn't it? So these are the factors which is responsible or which forms a soil. The soil formed by the parent rock, and due to weathering activity and organic and inorganic materials, matters, and time. So these are the factors which is causes for the soil formation. And you know about the soil profile. So it's like the piece of the earth crust. The piece what we taken from the earth crust. So here in the bottom, so this soil profile is classified into 3 layers. What is soil profile? Soil profile is nothing but structure of a soil formation from bottom to top. It's a structured layer. So here we have 4 layers. One is about first the parent rock and its weathered rock, subsoil and topsoil. These are the 4. We discussed about this in the 8th class. That's the reason I'm not discussing very deep. It's a topsoil. Topsoil is with the humus and vegetation. Vegetation like these are the plants. Humus. It has a humus because it's a ultimate last level of soil formation, so that it has more humus in it with the vegetation. It's called as topsoil, and here below that we have subtopsoil. It has made up of it consists of clay, silt. So it's some grain. The grain is somewhat bigger than this like a topsoil. And here weathered rock. It's a piece of rock material. It's weathered rock. And it's a parent rock, it's a basic rock. From the rock we will get a soil. That's what the soil profile we discussed already. So that's the reason I didn't go very deep. So we continue this soil as a resource in the next class. For this class, this one. Can I do this?